You feel it. The vault of heaven is real, and your name is engraved on its door. This is not a dream. It's a prophetic alert. The owner is the giver, not the gatekeeper. God holds the wealth, but he is not hiding it from you. He is holding it until you are ready to carry it without it crushing you. The keys, they are not lying around for anyone to grab. They are in covenant hands, hands that bleed obedience, hands that have said yes, even when it cost everything. And you, chosen one, are being called into that covenant deeper than ever before. Your spirit already holds the duplicate key. In heaven's economy, access is not given through titles or applause. It is given through alignment. When your obedience turns at the same moment his will turns, the lock clicks. It cannot be forced. It cannot be hacked. The Holy Spirit is the banker, not your employer, not your network. He decides the timing, the amount, the channel. He will never release something that will fund your enemies or feed your destruction. This is protection disguised as process. Your name is on the account, but heaven monitors identity theft. The adversary is hunting your signature, trying to counterfeit it with compromise, lust, pride, or impatience. One wrong agreement, and the access is delayed, not denied, but delayed. The vault does not open for personal whim. It opens for kingdom assignments. When your mission feeds his plan, the gates swing wide. When it only feeds your comfort, the door remains still. The keys operate on faith frequency. Fear jams the mechanism. Doubt freezes the lock. Faith turns the key smooth as oil. There is a time lock feature. Certain treasures are already yours but are set to release only in their appointed season. Not when you cry for them, not when you demand them. When your destiny is positioned for maximum impact, angelic stewards guard the perimeter. They are not impressed by titles, positions, or followers. They guard against motives that could poison the blessing once it's in your hands. And then there is the master reset. Your worship. When your praise cuts through pride. When your surrender burns through fear. That is when the override is activated. Delays dissolve. The vault swings open, and heaven floods you not just with resources, but with the weight of divine purpose. Chosen one, this is not just about provision. This is about position. Heaven is now your bank account, and the keys are already within your reach. Fear of lack. It loses its claws. The moment you see heaven's balance sheet with your name on it, you no longer measure decisions by, what if I run out? You move as if the supply is infinite, because it is. Scarcity stops being your shadow. You act, you give, you build without hesitation. The fear that once whispered in the back of your mind, it's silenced under the roar of divine abundance. Earth systems, they lose their grip on your pulse. Inflation, market crashes, hidden manipulations in boardrooms. None of it controls your peace. Your economy is not Wall Street. Your interest rate is not dictated by banks. You are tied to the treasury of heaven, where no corrupt hand can print value out of thin air. Generosity becomes instinctive. You stop calculating, stop counting, stop clutching. Your giving becomes warfare. Every seed you sow becomes a sword that cuts down greed and darkness. You give because you know. The vault never runs dry. Malachi 3:10 isn't just a verse, it's your reality. The windows of heaven are not cracked open, they are swung wide. Confidence in God's promises. It rises like fire in your bones. No more, maybe he will. Every word he spoke becomes a contract signed in his own blood. You walk the streets as a living witness that, my God shall supply all your needs, is not poetry, it is law. And the warfare over your provision, it ends. The enemy cannot starve you when your bread comes from a source he cannot access. He can't freeze your account. He can't intercept the transfer. He can only try to distract you from checking the balance that's already overflowing. You begin dreaming on a kingdom scale. No more, if I can just get by. Avli. You see projects, visions, movements not just for you, but for nations and generations. You build with blueprints that outlive you. You start thinking like Abraham, counting stars instead of coins. The appetite for counterfeit sources dies. You no longer entertain manipulation dressed as opportunity. You reject bribes wrapped in flattery. You will not compromise your calling to access what you already own in the spirit. The purity of heaven's flow makes the poison of man-made provision obvious. Peace guards your mind like armor. Bills don't own your sleep. Unexpected needs don't break your rhythm. Even in chaos, you stand still. Because the storm cannot touch the vault. Your identity shifts. You stop seeing yourself as a receiver, waiting in line. You step into your place as a steward, a royal manager of divine assets. You decide where the flow goes. You assign it to heal, to build, to free, to multiply. And your life. It becomes a walking sermon on God's economy. People see the stability, the calm, the fearless generosity, and they can't deny it. They are drawn to the source that sustains you. Without a word, you preach the truth. Heaven is enough. Poverty can be a spiritual misdirection. It's not always about empty pockets. It's about a hidden hand trying to blindfold your spirit. It's a crafted perception, designed to make you question the source instead of trusting him. The lack you think you see is often a shadow, projected to keep you from looking at the overflowing storehouse in heaven. The enemy uses lack as a lens. He narrows your vision so you can only see what's missing. He wants you so focused on the empty jar that you ignore the oil still flowing in the corner of the room. It's the same tactic he used in the wilderness, pointing to hunger, while ignoring the promise of manna. If he can shrink your sight, he can shrink your faith. False scarcity trains you to worship earthly systems. When you believe that provision only flows from human structures, you start bowing to them without even realizing it. You wait for the paycheck instead of the promise. You measure the government's budget instead of God's capacity. But hear this, warning, those systems were never your provider. They were just channels heaven chose for a season. Generational narratives reinforce the illusion. Stories of never enough get passed like family heirlooms. Phrases like, money doesn't grow on trees, become unspoken prophecies that limit you. And without noticing, you start rejecting abundance as if it's suspicious, when in truth, it's your rightful inheritance as a child of the King. Poverty in the mind breeds poverty in action. It makes you make small moves, safe moves, moves that keep you stuck in cycles of just getting by, even when resources are right in front of you. It's the mindset that says, this is all I'll ever have. So you never step into, this is only the beginning. The illusion is designed to distract you from your inheritance. If you believe you own nothing, you won't rise to manage what's been assigned to you. The adversary knows if you ever start stewarding your heavenly wealth, you'll outbuild, outlast, and outshine every counterfeit empire. Doubt in God's provision weakens your spiritual authority. A fearful steward can't command heaven's supply lines. It's like holding a key but trembling too much to put it in the lock. The kingdom requires you to speak to lack with the same boldness you speak to mountains, expecting them both to move. Contentment without awareness can be a trap. Yes, Paul said, I have learned to be content. But he was also a man who advanced the kingdom with everything entrusted to him. Don't let false humility keep you on crumbs when the feast is prepared and waiting. Heaven doesn't reward passivity. It rewards faithful pursuit. The moment you see the illusion, it loses power. You stop asking if God will provide and start seeing the patterns of how he already has. You begin to recognize the hidden deposits that were always there. Relationships, skills, favor, ideas that carry divine currency. Faith replaces the program with kingdom reality. It shifts your lens from barren to blooming, from empty to overflowing, and the same life you thought was dry becomes a river, because your eyes finally opened to see the water was flowing all along. The kingdom of darkness profits from substitutes. It doesn't need to steal your destiny outright, just convince you to trade it for something that looks shiny now but rots tomorrow. Satan's system thrives on counterfeits, temporary tokens, fragile rewards. It whispers, this will satisfy you, while hiding the fine print that says it will enslave you. Corrupt powers package bondage as prosperity. They dress debt in designer clothing and call it success. They sell you the American dream. But the price tag is your freedom. Political and corporate elites know, if they can keep you chasing what rusts and fades, you'll never reach for what heaven already secured. Religious manipulators monetize fear. They take the pulpit and preach man-made chains. They twist scripture until it serves their control, not your freedom. They demand you sow into fear, not into faith. They talk about giving but never teach you how to walk in the authority that opens heaven's vault. Cultural influencers redefine value. Media tells you your worth is measured in trends, brands, and followers. Celebrity culture exalts those who have mastered image but bankrupted their soul. It's the hidden warning. Be seen, even if you lose yourself. But heaven never asks you to trade identity for attention. The advertising industry sells emotional currency. It doesn't just push products, it manufactures desire. It replaces the peace of heaven with the endless chase for what you don't yet own. It teaches you to crave, not to carry, to want endlessly, so you never notice you already have more than enough in the spirit. Peer pressure markets the counterfeit for free. You don't have to pay for the lie, they'll hand it to you wrapped in friendship, family, and social approval. They'll push you to spend on image instead of investing in purpose. They'll celebrate the new car, but ignore the new calling God gave you. False teachers promise instant blessing without alignment. They offer shortcuts to the throne. They bypass the refining fire, selling you the crown without the cross. They promise heavenly rewards without the heavenly lifestyle, forgetting that character is the currency that keeps what blessing gives. The spirit of mammon imitates the voice of provision. It will sound almost holy. It will whisper that wealth proves your worth. But heaven says your worth is the root of true wealth. Mammon says, get more to become valuable. God says, you are valuable, therefore, I will give you more. Entertainment normalizes the illusion. Movies glamorize reckless riches. Music worships waste. Shows sell you empty luxury. They hide the ruin behind the velvet curtain. They downplay eternal stewardship as if it's boring, when in truth, it's the only form of wealth that never dies. And sometimes your own flesh becomes the salesman. Unchecked desires, hidden cravings. They lure you to buy the shadow and ignore the substance already secured in heaven. Your own appetite can become the enemy's best ally. And this is the warning, chosen one: if you don't govern your heart will sell you the very chains you were anointed to break. Disruption often signals redirection. When the streams on earth start drying, it's rarely a punishment, it's a prophetic alert. God is whispering, a higher source is ready to take over. Information, the flow you depended on, was only temporary scaffolding for something greater. And when heaven steps in, the supply is not just enough, it's tailor-made for your destiny. Closed doors can be divine firewalls. You see them as denial, but in truth, they're protection. Protection from corrupt pipelines that look like blessing but drip with hidden poison. A job that flatters you but chains you. A partnership that pays you but drains you. Heaven will block access when the cost to your spirit is too high. Heaven's signals are often wrapped in shortages. Lack is not always the enemy's doing, sometimes it's an encrypted message from God. You've outgrown this system, log in to the new one. It's like the manna in the wilderness, it stopped when Israel entered the promised land. Because the source was shifting. The shortage was not a curse. It was a transition notice. The Spirit uses pressure to shift perspective. Financial strain can force your eyes off wages earned and onto inheritance received. Heaven's wealth is not a paycheck, it's a covenant. And when you truly grasp that, you stop counting coins and start counting promises. Lack forces you to identify your true provider. When the paycheck fails, you face the question: was your faith in the employer or in the eternal? The system or the source? Because the moment you answer that, the test is almost over. This is the economy of dependence, not desperation. Heaven is not trying to break you, it's rewiring you. Shifting you from survival mode to supernatural supply mode. From relying on man to leaning fully on God. It's dependence on the vine, where the fruit never runs out. The signal aligns with kingdom timing. Disruptions are not random, they often arrive right before your major assignment. God won't let you step into the mission under-resourced. He'll cut the earthly cords so you can enter fully funded by heaven. Shifting supply sources requires a faith transaction. You cannot keep a death grip on predictable income and expect unpredictable abundance. You must release the old before the new can land in your hands. It's the faith of Abraham, stepping out without knowing the destination but trusting the provision will meet you there. Earth's scarcity is heaven's invitation. What looks like loss here may be the exact moment your spiritual account goes live. The same hour you feel emptied in the natural could be the hour heaven's deposit hits in the spirit. Responding correctly unlocks the flow. If you read the signal and obey without panic, without clinging, the new supply comes. Not just enough, strategic. abundant, untouchable. The kind of provision that turns your life into a living warning to the enemy and a living witness to the world. Faith is the currency that opens the vault, not degrees, not contacts, not the numbers in your earthly account. In the economy of heaven, transactions are triggered by trust in the provider, not the process. Abraham walked without a map, yet every step opened a new treasury. Overanalyzing delays the deposit. The moment you demand to see the blueprint before you build, you pause what God intended to release instantly. It's the difference between Peter stepping out on water and Peter sinking when he started calculating the waves. The how is hidden to protect the miracle. If the method were revealed, the adversary would set traps along the route. God conceals the channel, so the delivery lands untouched, secure, pure, and uncorrupted. Some of the most powerful blessings arrive in ways you didn't even know to expect. Receiving without proof honors the sender. It's your way of saying, I trust your hand, even when I can't see the package. It's the faith of the centurion who said, only speak the word, and my servant will be healed. That kind of confidence moves heaven. Faith is the only signature heaven accepts. No bargaining, no performing, no pleading to earn it. You sign the withdrawal slip with belief alone. Every time you agree with fear, you forge the signature. Every time you agree with the promise, you authenticate it. The delivery method is part of the training. God will use unusual channels to teach you reliance on Him, not a formula. One day, it's manna in the wilderness. The next day, it's a raven by the brook. The channel changes, but the source never does. Asking how can shrink what was meant to overflow. Doubt is like a lid you can't pour into a container that's already closed. Your capacity is determined by how freely you can say, yes, Lord, without needing a step-by-step explanation. Immediate reception creates momentum. When you take the blessing without hesitation, you position yourself for the next release. It's the principle of the talents. Those who multiply what they receive get more. Those who bury it in fear lose even what they had. The mystery is the proof of the source. If you could explain every detail, it would be human. But when the provision arrives in ways that defy logic, you know this is not the hand of man. This is the fingerprint of God. Faithful receiving is a witness. Others watch how you stand calm in storms, certain of unseen provision. Your peace becomes a prophetic warning to the enemy and a divine invitation to the weary. They begin to ask the question you already know the answer to. What would it take for me to live with that kind of confidence? And in that moment, you are not just a receiver of the vault's riches. You become a walking signpost to the source itself. Faith is always the first target. Before the enemy touches your resources, he comes for your belief. Because if you won't step toward what's already yours, the account might as well stay locked. Without faith, even a full vault feels empty. The enemy strikes early to abort the withdrawal. He senses the moment heaven announces your deposit in the spirit. You haven't seen it in the natural yet, but the release has already been authorized. So he hits you fast sickness, unexpected bills, bad news hoping you'll forfeit before you even reach the vault. Fear is his crowbar. It preys at the lock of your confidence. It whispers, what if God doesn't come through this time? And if you agree, the lock starts to rust from the inside. But fear has no legal right here. Perfect. Love casts it out. Distraction is deployed as diversion. Suddenly, small fires erupt everywhere. Urgent, petty problems show up like thieves in the night, pulling your eyes off the release that's moments away. But chosen one, not everything that screams for your attention is worthy of your focus. Delay is used to corrode expectation. Days pass. Weeks pass. And the enemy leans in to whisper, maybe it was never sent. But delay is not denial. God's timing is a divine seal, not a cancellation notice. Relationships become access points. He can't touch the vault directly, so he uses voices you trust to plant seeds of disbelief. It may sound like concern. It may sound like advice. But beneath it is a hidden warning. Don't expect too much. Guard your gates. Past failures are brought back as evidence. The memory of last time is replayed in high definition. He wants you to sign the agreement that says, this time will be the same. But you are not the same person you were then. Your faith has matured. Your discernment has sharpened. Faith theft is cheaper than resource theft. Why fight heaven for your blessing when stealing your belief costs less energy? If you surrender faith, you'll never even make the withdrawal. This is why the battle is always in the mind, before it's in the material. The attack often disguises itself as logic. It will sound reasonable. It will sound safe. It will sound like just being realistic. But the language of heaven is not confined to human logic. It is anchored in promise. Victory comes by guarding the mind first. If your faith is fortified, no storm can breach the vault. The account stays open. The flow remains constant. And every attempt to block it becomes the very confirmation that the release is near. Closed doors are not your downfall. They are prophetic markers, signals that your access point is shifting. When earthly options vanish, it's not punishment. It's a divine reroute towards supernatural entryways. The shutdown is not rejection. It's redirection. Heaven will close what no longer serves your destiny, so you'll stop knocking and start logging in above. God is not trying to keep you out. He's trying to pull you higher. Heaven's app requires exclusive focus. As long as you have multiple open doors on earth, you will keep splitting attention between man's supply and God's. But the kingdom account demands your full gaze. It does not share your trust with Egypt's storehouses. Loss of options activates hidden features. There are spiritual resources that remain invisible until every earthly backup is gone. Like manna that only fell when the Israelites left the leeks and onions of Egypt. Sometimes, you must be cut off from what was feeding you, so heaven can start. God uses isolation to teach navigation. With earthly systems stripped away, you are forced to learn the interface of faith, prayer, and obedience. You learn to hear his promptings like GPS directions: turn here, wait now, move forward. And every step you take in trust becomes a direct deposit into your spirit. Closed doors remove counterfeit providers. The world's easy options may look like provision, but many are debt traps or spiritual compromises dressed in convenience. God knows if he leaves them open, you will be tempted to drink from poisoned wells. So he seals them shut to protect your awakening. The delay in reopening keeps you logged in. If the old doors swung wide too soon, you might abandon the divine supply chain and run back to the familiar. Heaven knows you too well. Your destiny can't afford relapse. Your first login is always the hardest. The shift feels unnatural at first. But once you taste the flow, once you experience heaven's account becoming your default, you will never crave the world's currency the same way again. Obedience is the passcode. You cannot bypass it with noise, titles, or performance. Alignment is the only encryption heaven accepts. Every time you obey without delay, the system recognizes your identity and grants deeper access. Once you're inside, Earth's doors become optional. You no longer need permission from banks, bosses, or broken systems to live in overflow. You move from approval seeker to kingdom heir. And the same closed doors that once terrified you now serve as proof you've finally been shifted into heaven's private network. Every withdrawal carries kingdom purpose. This is not casual spending. This is not funding your comfort. Every release from your heavenly account is targeted, strategic, prophetic, aimed to multiply heaven's influence on earth. If it doesn't advance the kingdom, it's not authorized. Emotional debt is a silent thief. Bitterness drains faster than bankruptcy. Resentment burns through resources before you even realize they're gone. Guilt? It will make you pay bills you don't owe, bills that heaven already canceled at the cross. Paying off world-imposed debts feeds the wrong system. When you use heaven's supply to answer demands born of manipulation, you are funding the very chains you were called to break. You cannot destroy Pharaoh's system while you're still sending him a portion of your harvest. God's investments yield eternal dividends. When you align your capital with his call, you sow into soil that outlives you. One seed planted in obedience can outlast 10 lifetimes of earthly gain. That's the kind of ROI heaven calculates return on intercession. Emotional debt, masquerades, as urgency. It whispers, make things right with them now. Prove yourself now. But sometimes the Spirit says, leave that account closed. Because not every payment is righteous. Some are disguised chains, meant to keep you serving old masters. Spiritual capital is not for buying approval. You cannot bribe man to love you with heaven's wealth. Trading gold for counterfeit paper will bankrupt your witness. If they only value you when you're paying them, you've already overpaid. Investing in your call protects the flow. When your resources feed your mission, Heaven sees you as a trustworthy steward. The vault opens wider. The flow gets stronger. Because God funds what he authors, and he doesn't run out. Misallocation invites future lack. Use divine deposits for the wrong thing, and the stream will pause until you realign. Not because God is punishing you, but because he will not finance destruction in your life. God's direction may seem illogical. He might tell you to pour oil into empty jars, or invest in a mission field that looks like barren land. That's because he sees the harvest before you even break the soil. Your logic can limit your legacy, but your faith can multiply it. Every investment becomes a testimony. When you use heaven's resources as he directs, your life preaches without a microphone. People see the fruit, the stability, the supernatural favor, and they know it's not from man. They see the kingdom in motion, and secretly, silently, they begin to shift their trust from earth to heaven. Your mindset would shift from access to ownership. No more living like you need permission slips from heaven. You would walk like the vault is already yours because it is. Inherited authority changes the way you stand, the way you speak, the way you decide. You'd stop knocking timidly and start turning the key with certainty. You'd stop begging and start managing. Prayer would shift from desperate petitions to confident strategies. You wouldn't be asking God for crumbs, you'd be allocating kingdom resources like a royal steward. You'd say, Lord, where should I deploy what you've already given? Instead of, Lord, will you give it? Because an heir doesn't doubt the deposit, they discern the assignment. The inheritance would redefine your identity. You'd no longer wear the name tag of needy believer. You'd move as a trusted keeper of heaven's wealth. This isn't arrogance. This is alignment. You're not flaunting your blessing. You're fulfilling your birthright. Fear of loss would vanish. Heirs don't fear bankruptcy when their source is infinite. The economy could shake, markets could crumble, but you'd stand still, unbothered, because your treasury is eternal. You'd finally understand why David could say, I have never seen the righteous forsaken, nor their seed begging bread. Your stewardship standards would rise. Ownership carries weight. You'd count the cost before building. You'd invest with surgical precision. Every seed would be intentional. Every harvest accounted for, because the vault isn't just for you. It's for the mission. You'd operate beyond the limits of salary or savings. Your calculations wouldn't be bound by paychecks. You'd make decisions according to heaven's measure, not earth's math. What's impossible for your bank account would be routine for your inheritance. You'd finally dream at the scale of your destiny. You'd recognize counterfeits faster. An heir knows the scent of authentic provision. You'd reject deals, partnerships, and opportunities that reek of compromise. You'd see through the glitter that hides a snare. The more you know the real, the quicker you spot the fake. You'd plan generationally, not momentarily. You'd stop chasing instant gratification and start building for centuries. Your choices would echo beyond your lifetime. Your grandchildren would walk through doors you opened long before they were born. Because true inheritance isn't spent, it multiplies. Your confidence would become contagious. Others would see the unshakable security you carry and wonder where it comes from. They'd lean in, drawn by the peace that doesn't bend under pressure. Your presence would quietly remind them that heaven funds those who walk in purpose. Your life would preach prosperity without words. You wouldn't have to prove anything. The way you move, give, and build would speak louder than any testimony you could tell. You'd become living evidence that heaven is not just a promise, it's a functioning economy flowing through you. Chosen one, heaven is now your bank account.